remembers every shoe that crossed this floor. The one pair left a pattern nothing else could draw. A circle worn into the wood from spinning twice. The kind of mark that proves that gravity has a price. Someone paid it. Floorboards hum a frequency they haven't felt in years. A tempo stored inside the grain like fossilized careers. The spotlight found the spot, the same spot, center stage. And the bulb has been waiting like a dog who knows your face. Not a return, not a revival, just a filament that never cooled inside the glass of something timeless. The light knows where to fall, the floor knows where it burns. The echo hasn't finished traveling and the room still turns like it was never still. Like the silence was just a rest between the last beat and this one. One glove on the table, silver catching dust. Sequence hold the memory of 1,000 camera flashes. Pick it up, the weight is lighter than expected. All the heaviest things are made of light reflected. The mirror on the wall has one crack running through, divides a glass in two like a before and after. The before was just the world without the sound. The after starts right now. Below the ground, the bass is waking up. The light knows where to fall, and it fell right here again, where the floorboard has a circle and the circle has a name. No one says it, but the speakers hum it low below the frequency of speech, in the range where bodies move, before the brain can teach them how. Static on the television, snow on every channel. But one frequency's moving like it learned to dance. Between the white noise there's a silhouette that bends in ways the broadcast can't forget. Silver threads on black, a constellation sewn by hand. Every sequin is a pixel in a suit no screen could render. The fabric doesn't hang, it orbits. Centrifugal glamour on a body built for verbs. The static clears for anyone who moves like punctuation. Every step a comma, every spin a period, every freeze an exclamation. In a sentence the whole world is reading. Sequence and static, the signal and the noise and the signal always wore it better. Wore the light like a second skin, wore the dark like a stage. The static is everything else and the sequence cut through it like a voice through a crowd that only has to whisper to be the loudest sound. The television hums a frequency of absence, but the suit is hanging in the closet like an answer to a question nobody asked yet. Can something shine after the spotlight moves? Unzip the bag, the sequence still reflects not light memory. Each one a flashbulb from a decade that still glows. Put it on in the mirror, can't decide if it's seeing the past or the future. Sequence and static, the thread between the scene and the belief. Every stitch holds a city that screamed. was the shape,
and shape was always the message.
dum 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 dum. Sit up and the ceiling said yes, and somewhere in between the laws rewrote themselves. For 3 minutes and 47 seconds, the anchor was a theory, not a joint. The toe touched down and the ground said stay. The body had already disagreed, already airborne in the space between the drum beat and the dream. Not flying, refusing to land, not jumping, forgetting to fall. The difference is the music is the difference between a body and a miracle. Gravity took the night off and nobody noticed except the floor. The floor felt lighter, the air felt thicker, and somewhere in the room a pair of shoes touched the ground so softly the ground wasn't sure it happened, and neither was the audience, and neither were the shoes. The lean, the impossible lean, 45 degrees from vertigo, a spinal protest sign against physics, written in the language of watch this. Slow motion in real time, the crowd holds breath and the breath holds the room, and the room holds the lean, and the lean holds in the hallway, a stage. The carpet tried to muffle it, but even carpet couldn't cage the rhythm in the ankles of a species made to move. Linoleum, a tap floor, concrete, a boom bap, gravel, a shaker. The world is an instrument and every surface is an invitation, written in the dialect of try me. The kitchen, the elevator, the crosswalk at 11. Every floor is just a floor until somebody decides that floor is a verb, not a noun. Every floor is a stage. Every floor is a stage. Every tile is a ticket. Every tile is a ticket.
The spotlight is the street light,
And the audience is the city.
and the city doesn't know it's watching.
But it is.
Every floor is a stage.
And the performer doesn't need permission,
Just a pair of shoes
that believe in the architecture of rhythm in a body
that treats concrete.
like a canvas. The parking lot at 2 a.m., a coliseum, the rain-wet sidewalk, a mirror with a beat, the squeaky gym floor of a school in Indiana, where a kid first learned that the ground was listening. And the ground is listening every time a heel strikes with intent. The planet takes a note and files it under proof that the best thing humans ever did was learn to move on purpose.
Every floor is a stage.
Every floor
And every stage remembers
the one who turned a hospital floor into a concert on a visit.
age 7
Sliding in socks while the doctors watched and forgot they were doctors for 30 seconds of wonder. 30 seconds of wonder. That lasted a lifetime. The bass doesn't wait for permission. The bass is the permission. 12 notes and only 4 of them are needed to build a temple at frequencies that live below the collarbone. E, the root, the soil, G, the reach, the branch, the lean, the dare, beat, the return, the land. 4 notes, 4 directions, one groove that knows the way home without ever leaving. It walks, you follow, not because you choose to, because your skeleton is 60% water and water follows rhythm. The way rivers follow gravity, without thinking, without trying, without knowing, they're beautiful. The bassline walks itself. Your feet are just the passengers, your hips are just the translators between the speaker and the floor. The bassline walks itself, and you thought you were dancing, but the dancing was doing you. The way rain does a window, the way morning does a sky. The bassline walks, and everything else is a consequence. In the studio, the engineer said again, and the fingers played the same 4 notes, and the room changed shape. The walls moved acoustically, scientifically. The standing wave shifted, and everyone in the room shifted with it. That's not music, that's architecture. 4 notes and a thumb building a cathedral in the space between the kick and the conscience. The bassline walks itself through generations, through remixes, through every kid who heard it through a car window and stopped moving for a second, then started moving forever. The bassline walks itself. It was never about the player, it was about the pattern, and the pattern is older than the instrument. feeling.
The shoulder moved before the song started, like it read the sheet music early, like it knew the tempo before the tempo existed. Left, then right, then both, the conversation in cartilage, a dialect spoken only by the collarbone. And the collarbone is fluent, chest forward, hips counter, knees, the punctuation that nobody taught, but everybody understands. Shoulders first, the body's rough draft before the choreography gets finalized. The motion before the notation, the instinct before the instruction. Shoulders first, and the room followed, not the eyes were late, the spines followed, because spines recognize authority, and the shoulders had jurisdiction over every molecule in the room. Isolation, the art of moving one thing while the rest pretends to be furniture. The wrist rolls and the elbow doesn't know, the hip dips and the rib cage holds still, like a secret keeper with nothing to hide except the impossible fact that a body can disagree with itself and still look like poetry. Shoulders first, then the neck, a parenthetical, then the fingertips, an ellipsis, then the toe, the period at the end of a sentence, written in a language that has no alphabet, only vertebrae.
It has more stories in the closet, zippers like scars that chose to be decorative. Shoulders wider than the body needs, because the body was never the point. The silhouette was leather, doesn't breathe, that's the point. The sweat stays in a private performance between the skin and the second skin, but the audience will never know about, and the not knowing is what makes the cool unbearable. Neon on leather is the color of a decade that refused to be subtle. Pink and black, red and chrome, the combination that proved restraint was optional if you had the posture. percussion, and the percussion became the decade, and the decade never really ended. The red jacket hangs in the museum now, behind glass, temperature control. But glass can't control the memory of the first time a television showed a body in that color, moving in that way, and 12 million living rooms went silent, then loud, then different. Forever different. Neon and leather, the aesthetic that taught a generation that you could be soft and hard in the same outfit, in the same song, in the same 3-second freeze where the body stops but the sequence keep moving, because sequence have their own momentum and their own memory and their own tempo. The leather stays, it always stays. The voice in the verse is architecture measured, each syllable placed like a brick in a wall that's being built towards something the wall doesn't know yet. But the throat knows. The throat has been preparing since the intro for the moment when precision becomes irrelevant, and the only note that matters is the one with teeth. The melody climbs one note per phrase. The air gets thinner. The chest expands beyond the suit. And there it is, the note that broke the speaker in the arena in '88, the note that cracked the frequency between singing and surviving, the scream at the top, where the flow becomes the instrument, and the instrument becomes the animal, and the animal becomes the legend, and the legend is just a voice that refused to be quiet. The engineer said the mic was clipping, the readout was red, but the red wasn't a warning, it was a standing ovation from the equipment. The compressor surrendered, the limiter said I can't. The needle whip had the number, and the number was just a suggestion that the voice politely declined. The scream at the top is not a note on the sheet, it's a hole in the sheet where the paper gave up and let the sound through, raw, unwritten, unplanned. The thing that can't be taught, only released like an animal that was always there, behind the choreography, behind the sequence,
behind the smile. The animal, the real one, at the very top, where the air runs out and the music begins. The angel, same throat. Oh! One hand raised the axis, the other hand the radius. The body becomes mathematics without a calculator. Silver thread on black velvet, the line between the visible and the vanished. One revolution and the glove blurs, two revolutions and the face blurs, three and there's nothing left but a column of light, shaped like a person who decided that standing still was never in the contract. Counterclockwise or clockwise, it depends on which side you're standing, and it doesn't matter. Because the spin doesn't have a direction, it has a duration, and the duration is as long as the crowd keeps it hailing. Silver on black, the glove against the suit, a single thread of light in a room that forgot the walls existed. Silver on black, contrast that taught a century that elegance isn't about what you add, it's about what you remove, until only the essential remains. A hand, silver, a stage, black, and the space between them spinning. Physics says the spin should stop. Angular momentum has a budget, and the budget was exceeded 14 seconds ago. But the body hasn't read the physics. The body has its own textbook, written in the language of not yet, not yet. The word that extends every spin past the possible into the territory where the audience forgets to record, because recording would mean looking at a screen instead of something they'll never see again. Silver on black, revolution after revolution. The word revolution means both a full turn and a change in the world, and both happen simultaneously in a room in 1983 when a glove and a suit and a body and a beat agreed that the floor was a suggestion, not a requirement. The spin doesn't stop, it just changes rooms.
The spin, the one they named after the air, because the air was the only thing that could keep up. 2 feet become one foot becomes a point, the point becomes the center of a geometry lesson that was never in any school, but is in everybody that ever heard a downbeat and thought, what if I didn't stop? What if I didn't stop? What if the note lasted longer than the bar? What if the bar lasted longer than the song? In the body, before it reaches the hands, a spin, and the world spins with you, whether it knows it or not. The kids in the living room tried it, socks on hardwood, almost. The dog watches, confused. Why is the small human becoming a circle? And the small human falls and gets up and spins again, less well, less fast, but with more belief. And belief is the only physics the spin ever needed. The spin, 3 decades of living rooms, trying to find the axis that only one body truly knew. The spin that proved the most complicated things are simple, and the simplest things are impossible unless you're the one who made impossible look like it was always supposed to happen. Like this. Like this. Always like this. One glove, not 2, never 2, because 2 would be symmetry, and symmetry is comfortable, and comfort was never the point. The point was the gap, the bare hand and the silver hand, side by side, having a conversation about what it means to choose incompleteness as a statement. The world is full of pairs, eyes, hands, shoes, wings, but the ones we remember are the ones that broke the pair and wore the fragment like a crown. One glove was enough, one sequin surface against one bare palm, the covered and the uncovered, the armor and the skin. One was enough, because enough was never about quantity. It was about the courage to leave one hand naked in a room full of cameras and let the naked hand be as famous as the silver one.
asked why not both, and the answer was a silence more eloquent than any lyric. A silence that meant, because then you'd look at both, and looking at both is looking at neither. Oh, and force is a choice, and the choice is the art. The choosing is the performance before the music even starts. One glove was enough, the way one moon is enough, the way one voice in a dark room is louder than a choir in daylight. One, the number that contains every argument for less. One glove, one spotlight, one body, one sound that changed the mathematics of spectacle by removing half and doubling everything. Doubling everything by removing half. Before the lights, before the screaming, before the name became a noun, and the noun became a weather system, there was a mirror and a face, and the face was practicing, not the smile, the courage. The courage to wear the smile in front of a number stop being countable years ago. You know something they don't? You've seen the version that doesn't have the makeup, the version that cries at the same pitch as the high note in the bridge, the version that asks, is this what I wanted? And the mirror never answers, because mirrors don't answer. They just show you the question. The mirror knew first, before the crowd, before the camera, before the bass hit. The mirror saw the tremble in the lower lip that the audience would later call emotion. But the mirror knew it was fear, and the fear was beautiful, because the fear meant it still mattered, and mattering is the only thing that keeps a person standing in front of a mirror at 4 a.m. before the biggest show, asking the glass, is it enough? And hearing nothing back but the sound of a heart still beating in a chest that chose this life. Every single morning, still beating every morning. Some down the hall, past the managers and the contracts, past the lawyers and the lighting rigs. There's a sound that has nothing to do with business. Small voices, unsynchronized, slightly out of key, and more in tune with everything than anything the monitors could mix.
The voice that shook stadiums started as a whisper in a kitchen,
In a house, on a street, where the biggest stage was a porch, and the biggest crowd was a family that didn't know yet what they were listening to.
children singing in the distance,
Not performing,
just singing,
not for cameras,
for the sound of it.
for the feeling of a note, leaving a small body
And becoming bigger than the room. Children singing,
the same melody,
that became
the melody
the anthem.
that became the era. But before all that, it was just a sound a child made, because the world was still quiet enough to hear it. The legacy isn't the moonwalk, or the record sales, or the jacket in the museum. The legacy is the kid in a bedroom right now, tonight, singing into a hairbrush in a mirror, wearing one sock higher than the other, attempting to lean, falling, getting up, singing louder. Because somewhere in the DNA of music, the instruction was written:
Keep trying, the floor will forgive you. Children singing in the distance,
not far, in the next room, in the next generation,
in the next century.
the distances in space,
It's time,
and time doesn't erase a melody.
it teaches it.
To new throats that have never heard of record deals, only heard
That if you sing loud enough,
the kitchen becomes a stadium, and the hairbrush becomes a microphone,
and the one sock
becomes the glove. The hairbrush becomes a microphone every generation. Every song has a ceiling, a note the melody reaches for and either touches or doesn't. But there's one note, one that the ceiling reached for back. The ceiling leaned down and the note leaned up, and they met in a frequency that doesn't exist on the piano, only in the throat of someone who knows that high isn't a direction, it's a decision. Higher than comfortable, higher than safe, higher than the lyric sheet planned, higher than... The note that never landed, released from a throat and refused to return to the earth. Still up there, still traveling past the arena, past the atmosphere, past the decade, past the century. The note that never landed is still going, and the the silence after it isn't empty, it's full of every person who held their breath and forgot to exhale. The vocal coach said, support from the diaphragm. But the diaphragm was only half the story. The other half was whatever lives inside a person who has been told no enough times that the throat itself becomes a protest sign held up to the frequency of everything that's said. You can't. And the note, that note was the answer, not in words and heads, in vibration, in the physical evidence that the air between a mouth and a microphone can contain more truth than a library. Never landing, still going somewhere above us right now. The crown was never made of metal. It was made of expectation. And expectation doesn't have a jeweler, it has a jury, and the jury never adjourns. Heavier than gold, this invisible thing that sits where the hair used to be simple. Before the hair became an industry, before the shoes became a language, before the name became a climate. They said king, and the word sounded like a gift. But a gift you can never put down is not a gift. It's a sentence served in sequence. Crown without a head. Eventually the head inside it becomes the crown, and the crown becomes the person, and the person disappears into the title, into the myth, into the merchandise. Crown without a head. The heaviest thing in the museum isn't behind the glass. It's the absence above the glass, where the head used to be, where the human used to be, before human became legend, and legend became lonely. A child in Gary, Indiana didn't ask for a crown, asked for a childhood, got a career instead. And the career was brilliant, and the brilliance was real, and the real was complicated in ways that crowns don't come with instructions for. Crown without a head. The paradox of being seen by everyone and known by no one. The math of a million faces staring at one face that can't stare back at any of them without becoming a photograph, a headline, a legacy, a crown without
where no one finishes. The concert ended 30 years ago, but the walls haven't been told. The concrete still holds the frequency of the last note of the last song of the last show. And the frequency is patient. Walls remember differently than people. People remember the feeling. Walls remember the vibration. And vibration doesn't have an expiration date. Still echoing in every room that held the sound and released it back. Slightly changed the way all rooms change the sound, and all sounds change the room. Still echoing, not fading, traveling, not ending, arriving somewhere else where the walls are new. And the years are younger, and the what was that is the beginning of a life lived differently because of a frequency that refused to stop. An arena in Tokyo demolished. The building is gone, but the air is still vibrating at 440 hertz. Concert A, the frequency of tuning, the frequency of beginning. Stand where the stage was, now a parking lot. And if you listen, below the traffic, below the wind, there's a hum. Concrete remembers. Even after the concrete is gone, the ground remembers. The way water remembers the shape of a stone long after the stone has moved. Still echoing, every arena, every stadium, every living room that the television brought the concert into. Still echoing in the wood of the floor, in the glass of the window, in the DNA of the dust that was in the room when the note was in the air. Still the tempo changed, not faster, not slower, sideways, into a time signature that the old songs wouldn't recognize, but would still hum along to. 3 beats where 4 used to live, and the extra space between 3 and 4 is where the new lives, where the version that nobody met yet is tuning its instrument. Not gone, rearranged the way a house isn't gone when you move the furniture. The walls are the same, the light from the window is the same, but the chair is by the window now, and the view from the new angle shows a garden that was always there. The tempo changed, and the people who said he left were counting in 4, but he was already in 3. A waltz in a world of marches, a pirouette in a world of straight lines. The tempo changed, and the change was the continuation, the way a river changes shape, but the water is the same water,
just arriving at a different ocean, at a different speed, in a different time, but arriving, always arriving. Play the old records at 3/4 speed and something else appears. A melody hidden inside the melody that only the slower tempo reveals. A word the fast version didn't have time to pronounce, a note the 4/4 version ran past. The tempo changed and revealed what was always there, behind the speed, behind the spectacle, behind the crown. A human with a melody that transcends whatever number you count to. The tempo change, that's all. Not stopped, not silenced. Change the way a heartbeat changes between waking and sleeping. Slower but still beating, still beating, still beating. Still beating in 3/4 time now.
Socks on hardwood, first attempt. The left foot goes back, but the right foot doesn't understand the assignment yet. And the result is a stumble, disguised as a step, disguised as a try, disguised as the most important moment in a 9-year-old Saturday. The VHS rewound 17 times, pause, play, pause. The frame frozen on the exact millisecond where the shoe appears to disobey the floor. And the 9-year-old thinks, I can do that. And the 9-year-old cannot do that. But the trying, oh, the trying is the whole point. Every kid who tried the moonwalk in a living room, with furniture pushed to the walls and a parent watching from the kitchen, pretending not to watch, but watching. Every kid who fell and got up and fell again, and the carpet burn on the knee was a badge, not a wound. Every kid who tried the moonwalk carried something forward that no streaming service can deliver, and no algorithm can recommend. The belief that the impossible is just the possible. Rehearsing in Lagos, socks on tile, in Tokyo, socks on tatami, in Sao Paulo, bare feet on concrete, in a bedroom in Seoul, in a kitchen in Paris, in every room, on every surface that a child's foot can slide across. The same attempt, the same beautiful failure, the same refusal to accept that the floor only moves in one direction, when clearly, clearly, the television has evidence to the contrary. Every kid who tried the moonwalk is an adult now, who sometimes in the kitchen at midnight, when nobody's watching, tries again. And the trying is the same trying. From 1983 and from 1997 and from last Tuesday, the trying doesn't age. The trying is the one thing that the tempo never changed. I still try. Don't tell anyone. The trying never aged. It never will. Bulb should have burned out. The filament should have given. Tungsten has a lifespan, and the lifespan was exceeded 40 years ago. But the light doesn't know about tungsten. The light only knows about on, and on is not a decision. It's a condition of being made of something that can't remember how to be dark. The spotlight never turned off, the room empty, the stage was struck. The arena became a memory, then a parking lot, then a story, then a legend. But the light, somewhere, maybe not here, but somewhere, the light is still on. A circle of white on a dark floor, waiting, not for a person, for a frequency, for a tempo, for the right pair of shoes to enter from the left and make the floor remember what it was built for. Spotlights don't retire, they relocate from the arena to the television, to the phone screen, to the memory that plays behind closed eyelids at 2 a.m. when a melody arrives uninvited and stays. Because melodies don't need a key, they are the key to a room you forgot you owned, in a building called your childhood, on a street called the first time I heard that bass. The spotlight never turned off. It traveled through cable, through air, through generations, through the VHS, through the MP3, through the algorithm that doesn't know why it's recommending this song, but recommends it anyway.